going to solve population math practice worksheet number 1. You will need this formula paper to solve the math. Starting with number 1, what is the birth rate for a city that has a population of 450,000 and 1,500 births per year? So we're going to use births over total population. You can go ahead and use your calculator for this and solve. And when we use our calculator, we're going to round to 3 significant digits. So the answer is 0.333%. Number 2, what is the birth rate for a country with 23 births per 1,000? So you can take your calculator, take 23 divided by 1,000, and you're going to get, and then times 100, and you'll get 2.3%. Now, we did not round to 3 significant digits here because we would have written it like this, 2.30. It's the 3 if necessary. So if you have a number that goes on and on and on, then you can round it to 3. But if it comes out even like this one, that's okay to do it like that. Now we have growth or death rate for a country with 62,000 deaths over a population of 1,250,000. So when you go ahead and plug this in your calculator, so pause the video, plug it in your calculator, and practice this yourself, and then restart the video. So we're going to round this one to 4.96. So that is 3 significant digits right there. Going on to number 4. What is the growth rate for a country that has a total population of 15 million with 320,000 births and 400,000 deaths? So when we do this math, we're going to end up with a negative 80,000. And so we're going to have actually a negative growth rate, which is a shrinking population. And so our answer ends up being a negative 0.533%, rounding again to 3 significant digits. And so this would be a country that has a declining birth rate, such as Japan or Italy. Number 5, what's the growth rate with births, deaths, and immigration? So for this one, we go back to our formulas and we find the growth rate with migration factored in. So we have 84,000 plus our immigrants into the country or city or town. This one happens to be of a country, minus death rates, plus our people leaving, which is immigrants with an E, over the total population of 23 million. So when we plug it in our calculator, now I'm going to show you kind of a somewhat easier way. When you plug it in a calculator, a lot of times people forget zeros. So if you can get rid of zeros on every single one of these numbers, it might help you from making more errors with the zeros in the calculator. So I can drop 3 zeros off of all these numbers. You notice I didn't get rid of all the zeros, but just 3 for each number. And so now I can do 84 plus 24, and I can do 55 plus 5, and then down here is 23,000. And And that just sometimes makes it simpler, and you can even solve it the first way with a bunch of zeros, and then the second way with without the zeros, and make sure you get the same answer. And that's just to double check that you solved it correctly. So we get 108 minus 60 divided by 23,000. And that's going to give us, when we round, 0.209% for that answer. Number 6, France has a growth rate of 4.4%. How many years will it double its population? So for this, we're going to use the rule of 70, and it's 70 over R when R is in a percentage. So 70 over 0.4. And when we plug that in the calculator, our answer comes out as years. So it's this special formula where you don't really cancel things out. It's a statistical formula, and R is already in a percent here. And when you do this particular calculation, the answer comes out in years, sometimes months, and we'll see that later. Number 7, the city is rapidly growing and has a growth rate of 5%. And how many years will this population double? So we have 70 over 5. So R is 5%. So 70 over 5, our answer pops out in years. When they don't say, when they say R and they say 5%, we assume it's years unless they mention that it might be months. Number 8, Kenya is doubling its population every 28 years. What's the growth rate? So we're still going to use 70 over R, but this time we're given the number of years. So now we need to solve for R. So we're going to cross multiply. If you remember way back to pre-algebra, this is over 1, so we can cross multiply. So we have 70 is equal to 28R, and then we're going to divide by 28. And so R is going to end up being 2.5%. And so that's the growth rate for Kenya. Number 9. A country in sub-Saharan Africa has a growth rate of 2.5%. Its present population is 5 million. A, how long will it take this country to double? So again, still working with the rule of 70, 70 over R when R is already a percentage. Go ahead and plug that into your calculator. And we end up with 28 years. And then B, so now we're going to end up with a trickier one. So you will have to do more complex problems. The ones we've just done are pretty straightforward, easier ones. This one's a harder one. How long will it take this country to reach 20 million people? So this is what you do. You start off with 5 million and just kind of go backwards. So let's see what happens. If we double 5, and we can go to 10. If we double 10 again, it goes to 20 million. Okay, so it looks like we doubled the population once and twice. And we did this twice to get 20 million. So we found out from the earlier problem that it takes 28 years to double. So if we take 28 times 2 doubling, we get 56 years. Here's a common mistake that students make. They do this, 5 million to 10 to 15 to 20. And that's incorrect because we're not adding 5, we are doubling. We go 5 to 10, and now the 10 doubles to 20. And so be aware of that. That's a common mistake that students make. Number 10, Italy's population is about 60 million, and its growth rate is negative 0.1%. How many people will Italy lose this year? So we're going to go ahead and write out our zeros. 60 million, and you need to memorize that a million has 6 zeros. But here we have 7 zeros because it's 60 million. So we have 60, and then we have 6 zeros. You 100% need to know this. And we just need to multiply this by a negative 0.1%. Now, if you have a calculator that can use percentages, then by all means, just plug in 0.1%. But if you don't have a calculator with percentage, then you need to take this out of a percentage. So in order to do that, you're going to move the decimal place back once and twice. And we're going to have 0.001. So you can multiply this instead by 0.001. And it's a negative. Don't forget the negative. So our answer is going to be a negative 60,000. And so it's either negative 60,000 or you could say 60,000 people lost. And so either answer is fine. Number 11. Italy's area is 301,340 kilometers square and its population is 60 million. What's the population density? So here it is, 60 million, write out the zeros. And we're going to divide by the square kilometers of Italy. And so when we do that, we get our answer is 199 people per square kilometer. And since we already have 3 significant digits, we don't need to round with a decimal. Even though our answer comes out as 199.11, we can round to 199 because that's 3 significant digits. Going on to 12 about Brazil, and we have a kind of a strange problem. So we have birth rate is 13.8 per thousand and death rate is 6.7 per thousand. And the total population is about 209 million. Calculate R. So this one's complicated. Let's take a look at what we need to do. First, we need to find out how many thousands of people there are. So if we take the total population of 209 million and we divide it by 1,000, we get 209,000 thousands. So again, 209,000 thousandth people. So what we do is we take the birth rate, which is 13.8, and we're going to multiply that because that's per thousand. We're going to multiply that by 209,000 because there's 209,000 thousands because we took the total population divided by 1,000. And we end up with 2,884,200 births. We're going to do the same with the death rate for Brazil, which is 6.7 per thousand. So we'll also multiply this by 209,000. And we're going to get 1,400,300 deaths. So now that we have this, we can find our crude growth rate by the formula. We're going to take 2,884,200 minus 1,400,300. So that's births minus deaths, and we go back now to use our total population of 209 million. And our answer comes out as 0.71% as a growth rate for Brazil. Going on to number 13. So 13 is another kind of backwards working complicated question, which will get easier as time goes on. You'll get better at these. In California's gold rush, some towns grew exponentially. If a certain town started with 45 people and had 360 people 15 months later, what's the growth rate? R can be also per month instead of per year, and they'll tell you if it's per month. So we started with 45, and let's kind of work the math a little bit this way. Let's go to 90, okay? And then we can go to 180, all right? And then we can double it to 360. All right, cool, because the question asks us how long till 360 people. So we double once, twice, 3 times. Great, all right. And now what do we do? Well, it said this happened over 15 months. So for 15 months, we doubled 3 times. So it looks like we doubled every 5 months. Okay, so it's 5 months to double. So 70 over R is equal to 5 months. So we're going to find R as the percentage per month. So now we can solve for R, and again, we can cross multiply like this, and we get 70 is equal to 5R, and then we can divide to separate R. And so R, when we take 70 divided by 5, is equal to 14. And this is going to be in months now because that's what the problem said was in months. And so that's how you do population math.